Okay, Dominic? Dominic?
Well, good morning from central London, Kensington Palace to be precise, the south gates to Kensington Palace, the officially designated place for people to come and lay their tributes in memory of the late Diana, Princess of Wales. I'm Dominic Valitis, and you join me live on Facebook, CBC Live on Facebook. We'll be here for the next half an hour or so, and we'll be taking your questions for the next half an hour. Also, hopefully, be joined later on today by Roya Nikkhah. She's the royal correspondent for the Sunday Times newspaper here in the United Kingdom. So if you have any questions for her, please feel free to get in touch via the usual channels. We were hoping to move over to the actual gates there and give you a bit of a view of all the tributes that have been laid here over the last few days. But unfortunately, as is often the case with live events, we've been told we have to move away because there's simply too many people here at the moment to get in there, and I think there's some concern that all the camera crews that are here, indeed there are many, they've come from all over the world, all the camera crews that are here are getting in the way of the people who are just trying to come here to pay their tributes to the late Princess Diana of Wales, and maybe stand for a bit of quiet reflection as well. But as you can see there, just the sheer number of crews that have come here from all over the world. We've seen people, we've seen news organisations from South America, from Canada of course, from North America, from the United States, from all over Europe as well. So a lot of interest in this anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. Let's go over here for a little bit. We're not, as I say, we're not allowed to go over there. We're going to move over here. I'm going to try and talk to some people if we can. So we're going to follow me this way. And as I say, please feel free at any point to drop some questions our way. Oh no, and as sorry, we're live at the moment. Sorry. I think we have to move back again. As I say earlier on, we were told we weren't allowed towards the gates, but it now appears we're not allowed to stay here. Can we? Okay, we're going to have to move back over to the other side. Sorry about this. This is all earlier on today. We were actually allowed full access to the gates, but not anymore. But we're going to move back over here now towards the area where we are allowed to stand. Let's go over this way. It is actually a lot busier today than it was yesterday. I don't know if you may have been watching yesterday, but we were here all day yesterday as well, and steady stream of people yesterday, but not quite as busy as it is today. I think the weather has a lot to do with that. The weather's glorious here today in central London. It was pretty grim yesterday. You're looking at a view of the park there. Very popular part of London, this. And of course, Kensington Palace is the real focal point. I'll just get the camera to look over at Kensington Palace over there. Kensington Palace, of course, has been a royal residence since the 17th century, originally built by Sir George Coppin in 1605, and then extended by Sir Christopher Wren, no less, in 1689. He actually expanded the building quite considerably. It was a two-storey building in its original form, and look at it now, huge place, very impressive place indeed. It was, of course, also where Diana's home after she married Prince Charles, and her home as well when they later separated. And of course, it is where she brought up her sons, the Princes William and Prince Harry, and it is now their official London residence. Another point worthy of making here as well is that it's also the location for that very famous interview that Diana did following her separation from Charles, that famous interview. And it was also the location, of course, where she planned the New York auction of her dresses, just 3 months before her death. And indeed, I think some of those dresses can actually be seen in the exhibition, which is which is open at the moment. It's a sellout exhibition. It's called Diana, Her Fashion Story, and you can actually see some of those dresses there if you can get tickets for it.
Pascal, when you're done here, can you shift just a bit so you're
I'm sorry, we're going to be asked to move again. There's a quick some comments. Your comments are coming through now. Corinne Miller. Hello, Corinne. We still miss her. As you think you can see, lots of people here feel the same way. Question here as well from Joanne Hughes. She asked, how many years did you say passed since she died? It's 20 years since the death of Princess Diana. Today, 20 years ago today, when she died in that car crash in Paris. Another message here from Marion Margaret Williams, and she comments, William and Harry are the measure of Diana. They are her legacy, not all the other memories and political battles that may cloud the memory. That is very true. I think it's very, very good comment, that, because I really think with Princes William and Harry you can really see the influence of their mother in them, obviously, but also in their kind of outward view of the world as well. They are, like their mother, very embracing of people of all walks of life. So yes, great comment. Thank you very much. And if you do have any more comments, then please do get in touch with us here on Facebook Live. It's just a colleague there from another broadcaster doing a live. As I say, press interest has been absolutely huge here today, as is normally the case, to be honest with you, with the royal families. Anything to do with the royal families. In a short while, we will be talking as well, as I say, to someone who knows a thing or two about the royal family, probably more than me. Roya Nikkhah, the royal correspondent from the Sunday Times here in the UK, will be joining us in a short while to answer some of your questions and help me out on the spots that I'm not too knowledgeable about. So we'll be chatting with her in a minute. In fact, let's go and talk to her now. I think she's just in the back of shot there. Let's go and have a word with Nia. So, hello, Nia. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Joining me now is, as I say, Roya Nikkhah, royal correspondent for the Sunday Times. Thank you very much for joining us here on CBC Facebook Live. Just a quick question I wanted to ask you just before we start getting some questions in. Just give us an idea of the impact that Diana had when she was alive.
Well, I think you can tell from, the people that are here, her impact was massive. It was huge internationally. She was, the first member of the royal family who really approached, causes that people had steered clear from for many years, things like HIV and AIDS, things like homelessness, supporting vulnerable young people. Her impact was massive. She was the most photographed woman in the world, and so she was able to have a huge impact. I think there's no underestimating just what a megastar she was, and we're still seeing that 20 years later.
A megastar in her own right, but also she, I guess, am I right in saying she had a real impact on how the royal family did business as well, perhaps?
Absolutely. Diana changed the very nature of how official royal duties were conducted. She literally took her gloves off during engagements. She touched people, she hugged people, she sort of, got down on the ground to talk to children. She did things like, raising awareness around landmines. She walked through landmine fields. This is approach to royal work that we hadn't seen before, and that has changed the royal family since. I think, Diana's greatest legacy is clearly William and Harry, her two boys. They have a much more modern approach to the way they approach their work now, and that is completely from their mother. They are seen very much as a sort of touchy-feely, more modern element of the royals, and that they are a testament to what she started 20 years ago.
Absolutely. As you know, Nia, we're taking questions from viewers in Canada. I'm just going to read some out as I mean. Feel free, please, to chip in if you like. Joy Suzanne asked, "What is the overall feeling of the crowd here? Solemn, quiet, solemn or quiet?" I think it's quiet and solemn, but I think people.
It doesn't feel too solemn. I think it's respectful, is what I would say. The sun is out. People are looking at the tributes. I think they want to come here. They want to remember Diana. But I wouldn't say it's not solemn. I think it's respectful, and it's more in keeping with her memory of being someone who was very bubbly, and people just want to come pay their respects.
A great question there from Joie Suzanne. We were talking a minute ago, weren't we, about the impact that Diana had when she was alive, and of course the reason we're here today is it's the 20th anniversary of her death. The impact of her death on this country?
I think unprecedented. We had never seen anything like the public outpouring of grief for starters when she died. I mean, that there were flowers from the gates here all the way back to Kensington High Street. It was a mass outpouring of almost sort of hysteria when it came to grief. Millions came to see her coffin on the way to her funeral in September 20 years ago. It was unprecedented, the scale of it, and I think that took everyone by surprise. It took the government by surprise. It certainly took the monarchy by surprise, and they were slightly caught short as to what to do. They'd never seen anything like it, and still the impact of her death, I think, has changed the way the royal family do approach their work now.
I mean, interesting you mentioned about, it was at the time a real crisis for the government, was it? It was almost a political disaster for the government of the time. The way it was handled, sorry.
Well, I think probably less so for the government than for the monarchy. Tony Blair was a new Prime Minister. He was very much about, cool Britannia. He was very much a sort of touchy-feely Prime Minister in the way that Diana had been, in the monarchy before. It was much more the royal family that were caught short. They were, of course, all up at Balmoral in Scotland, and the Queen's view was that she should stay there with her grandsons rather than come down to London, which is what the public were, calling out for. And it was conversations between the monarchy and the Queen and the government that saw her come down. But everyone was caught short because no one had ever seen anything like that with the death of a public figure, let alone the royal family.
We were also talking a short while ago as well about her legacy. Obviously, the Princes William and Harry are the physical legacy, but they carry on her spirit as well, don't they?
I mean, they do. Every engagement that William and Harry do, every project they take forwards, every approach towards their public life and their official life is very much in keeping with what Diana did. And I think whenever you talk to them, they will say that Diana is their touchstone, and they very much look back to the way that she conducted her work, and they think about what she would have wanted them to have done, the causes she would have wanted them to take up. William is patron of Centrepoint, the homelessness charity that Diana was. Harry is still doing all his work with HIV and AIDS. That's what Diana started. The same with his support for landmine causes. So every bit of their public work harks very much back to Diana.
Just to bring up, we've just had another comment here. This one comes from Joanne Hughes. Thank you very much for getting in touch with us, Joanne. And Joanne says, I think she would be hurt if she was alive today with all that's going on. What do you think about that? Do you think she would?
No, I don't think so. I think, Diana was, as you say, all about impact. And I think she was very aware of the impact that she had. She was very aware of the public's affection for her. She was aware she was an international star. She was able to use the media to great effect. And I think, she would understand that 20 years later she still captivated people. She might be surprised, but I don't think she'd be hurt by people coming out and paying tribute. No.
Just as a follow-up for that question, another great comment here from Chris Jones, and he says, I remember that day, the day of her death, like it was yesterday. The hell that poor lady lived through, unreal. A lot has been written, hasn't it, in the past about, especially about Diana's relation with the press. And what's your personal take on all that? Because on the one hand, some people say she was almost a Machiavellian figure who was using the press for good deeds, for her charity work and things like that. But she was also a victim.
Well, it's twofold. I think you have to separate the paparazzi photographer from the official press and royal correspondents of the time. She did have actually very close relationships with some royal correspondents at the time. She would call up Jenny Bond from the BBC and have a conversation with her. She was very close to Richard Kay of the Daily Mail. She used members of the media to not just draw attention to her charitable work, but to also to a point to manipulate her public persona. She was very good at doing that. When it comes to pursuit and harassment from paparazzi photographers, because of course photos of her were like gold dust, they sold hugely, yes. It certainly went way too far. And you've heard William and Harry talk a lot in the last few weeks and months about the fact that a lot of their memories of their mother were of her in tears, and that was always because of paparazzi intrusion, them pursuing her. Of course, they were pursuing her when she died. So I think it's twofold. You've got to look at it. Yes, she was pursued by very intrusive photographers, but she was also very aware of using, particularly the print press, to get her message across both in her work and her private life.
Another great question here has come courtesy of Christine Rector. Thank you for getting in touch, Christine. And she asks, is the Queen expected to do anything to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Princess Diana's death? And the reason I think that's quite an interesting comment is a lot has been written recently about Prince Charles's silence in the run-up to this, and it's been commented a lot in the press and things like that. is that the right thing, or do you think? Or
I think the collective royal family view and decision that's been taken is that they all feel, the Queen, Prince of Wales, Harry and William, feel it's appropriate for Harry and William to do the talking over the anniversary, and that's what they've done. They've taken part in 2 documentaries about her, and they've got their message over. I think it would have been impossible for the Prince of Wales to say or do anything that wouldn't have been picked apart by the press, and the Queen has maintained a dignified silence. I think it would have almost smacked of a publicity stunt if she'd come out and actually done anything. I think she said what she had to say 20 years ago. She made that very famous live broadcast to the nation. That was her tribute then. And I think the Queen and Charles have felt it was much more appropriate, discussing things with their boys, that it be left to William and Harry to say and do what they wanted to do to pay tribute. And we have. We saw them here yesterday laying flowers from the crowd at the gates as they did 20 years ago with Charles. It's been left to them.
And of course, it's very heartwarming to see so many people turn up here again today to pay tributes. But it's a totally different picture, isn't it, to it was 20 years ago, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, 20 years ago you had flowers and crowds stretching, a quarter of a mile back from the gates all the way back to Kensington High Street and all the way down. I think you wouldn't, that was a nation still in shock, in very raw, emotional shock. It's much more reflective now. It's people coming to have a look at the tributes and reflect about, again, her impact 20 years later, how she's changed the royal family, how the royal family is sort of, living through that, and how her work carries on with her sons.
Yeah, another comment here comes from Brian Linehan. I think I've pronounced that right, Brian. Excuse me if I haven't. And Brian says, "I want Prince William to be our next king." Now, I'm not sure if does that open up this conversation? Do you think about? There's always a lot of talk and rumour in the press about the royal family. It's after all sells papers, but a lot of talk about a regency arrangement recently. Is that something you've heard as well?
I wrote a big piece for the Sunday Times a couple of weeks ago, smacking that theory down. There will be no regency. The Queen's made it very clear she's here for good, regardless of what popularity polls say. The Constitution in Britain doesn't work like that. If Prince of Wales is alive when the Queen dies, he will be king. It was always going to be a very bruising summer for him. There were always going to be polls taken that it showed, his popularity had dipped, but I think in a year's time that will come back. It's the Diana effect. William is extremely popular. He is young, and he has a young, glamorous family. He's now moved to London full-time to take on full-time royal duties. We'll start seeing that from next week. The Prince of Wales, and he will continue to support the Queen, but there'll be no regency. She will be Queen for as long as she's alive.
Fantastic. Another comment here comes from Lynn Plagenborg. Hi, Lynn. It is so wonderful that her boys are now coming out and speaking about their mother and mental health. It's quite telling, isn't it? We've seen, as you were saying earlier on, we've seen quite a few documentaries recently that the princes have taken part in, and the big one was when they really opened up about her. It's quite a rare thing for any royal to do, isn't it? To open up emotionally, I guess. Well,
mental health, is one of the key issues that they have wanted to shine the light on in the last couple of years. Again, that is very much an evolution of their mother's work and her personality. She was the first member of the royal family to speak about having a mental illness, about having bulimia. So they've wanted to take that forwards. The interviews they've given around her anniversary, are very emotional. They have been very open. The reason they've done that, and they've made it very clear, is because this will be the first and last time they speak about their mother like that. They have almost wanted to sort of say, we're going to go very far, we'll go very deep, we'll open up about how we felt about her life, her work, her death, and that will be it. They want to draw a line, I think, from tomorrow onwards, underneath her memory publicly. Of course, they remember her every single day, but I think that's why we've seen them speak so publicly about their mother. But I think we won't see that again.
And another comment here from Joanne Hughes, and Joanne is commenting on how Diana would have reacted to terror, the recent terrorist attacks in London. I imagine, like all of us, she would have been absolutely mortified, of course. So thanks for that comment, for Joanne. Talking of legacy, let's talk a little bit as well. Let's expand a little bit, if it's okay, about the charity work that the two princes are doing at the moment. They're very heavily involved in all of that, aren't they? Very heavily involved.
Yeah, they are. They have their Royal Foundation, and that brings together lots of sort of people across issues that they're very keen on. Conservation, mental health is a key one, helping vulnerable young people, homelessness. I think they see a huge part of their duty in their official work has to be about supporting, social causes that will have an impact in the way that their mother did, but actually in the way that both their father did and still does, and their grandfather. I think they see it very much as, a new model of taking royal work forwards and just making sure that, the work that they do and their official duties are still relevant to people now, as they have been for the Prince of Wales and the Queen before. But yes, charitable work is an enormous part of their public life, and it will be going forwards.
It was I'm not sure if eerie is the right word. It was a strange. It was a scene yesterday, wasn't it, when they turned up here at the gates yesterday and they laid flowers. It was almost like a look back into the past 20 years ago when they did the same thing, but they were just aged 15 and 12 years old at the time, I believe. It's important for them, isn't it, to express their feelings about and recognise the public feeling today.
Yeah, I mean I think, yesterday they did the engagement at the Memorial Garden dedicated to their mother. They met members of her charities. Again, that's them saying, their mother's not forgotten. And then, of course, they made the unannounced visit down here to the gates to see some of the tributes, to place flowers from the crowds. They do acknowledge that there is and there will always be huge interest in their mother, and they are their mother's sons. But at the same time, I think it's significant we are not seeing them today. Today they're spending the day in private, remembering her privately.
Thank you for that. And another quick question, Christine Rector, she's asked a second question. Thanks, Christine. It's always good to get a number of questions from you. She asked, with Prince William stepping up full-time to his royal duties, is there speculation that he will be next in line to the crown? We've kind of already answered that, haven't we? But that's not going to happen. You wrote a big article about that too.
William has no desire to climb the ladder of kingship before his time, and our constitution, the way it works, is Charles will be the next king and William will follow him.
A comment from Chris Go here. Thanks for getting in touch, Chris. He says, I love happy fairy tales. May we expect some news soon? You know what I'm going to ask now. May we expect some news soon about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who I believe lives in Toronto?
She does indeed, where I will be in a few weeks' time with Harry, covering the Invictus Games. Look, I think they've been going out for a year and a half. Yes, they live in different countries, but I think, I wouldn't be surprised if we, hear something about an engagement after Invictus Games. In the next few months would be my guess.
As soon as that, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Meghan Markle is 36, Harry is 32, and, he's clearly besotted, and, there's no doubt we'll see her in Toronto at the Invictus Games. She lives there, I'm sure she'll be there, and I think if she is, that'll be a very strong sign that their relationship is going strong and is going to go the course.
And they do make a great couple. They do look great together, I think.
Well, yes, she's a very glamorous figure. I suppose, time will be the test of that. But yes, I think she'd be a great addition to the royal family.
Mina Tavares asked, thanks for getting in touch, Mina. She asked, she comments, I purchased a Diana commemorative magazine recently. The young clerk asked who she was. Are younger Brits aware of who Diana was and her impact on the royal family and the charities we work with? Well, I've been up here for 2 days now, Mina, talking to people who've come from all over the world to pay tributes to Princess Diana. And a lot of them were 3 months old at the time she died, or barely aware of their own surroundings. And I think a lot of people say that she was a real role model, especially for women.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, a lot of people weren't around when Diana died. And that's one of the key reasons that William and Harry have both said that they wanted to talk about her over the anniversary. They were very keen to make sure that actually younger generations who weren't alive when she died know who she was and know about the impact that she had on public life, know the many millions of people whose lives she touched through her charity work and her humanitarian work. And I think after this anniversary, younger people will have a much better idea of the work she did, of who she was, of her personality, and the fact that she isn't just some, historical figure they don't know about, who's lost in history, that her memory is kept alive for young generations, and that's what they wanted to do. And I think things like this today, people will go, okay, well, 20 years on, people are still talking about it, they're still coming to visit, and pay tribute. I'm sure young people will have a much clearer idea now than they did perhaps a few months ago of who she was.
We're just taking a look there at the shot of the gates, of the south gates of Kensington Palace. This, of course, is the the official place, the officially designated place for people to come and lay their tributes to Princess Diana. So people started turning up yesterday. The weather was really bad yesterday, so not many people turned up yesterday. Still a decent number, but not as many as today. The weather's great here today, so a good turnout today. Yeah, so you can see a colleague there from, I think, German or Austrian television doing a piece to camera. Press interest has been huge, as you'd imagine. It always is with anything related to the royal family, or indeed Princess Diana as well. Let's go back to Roya for a few more questions, if you don't mind, Roya. I know it's. I guess, how would you crystallise, what it was that Diana had? That's made her kind of so, as you were saying, as relevant today as she was 20 years ago.
She was different for her time. She was very modern for her time. Diana came to the fore in the 1980s and 1990s, and I think, as William said last week, she was a ray of light in a pretty grey world then. No one was doing what she was doing. No one was going into hospitals and shaking hands and hugging people with HIV and AIDS. No one was, going into leprosy hospitals and, hugging people with leprosy. No one was shining a light on some of the sort of trickier, social causes that she shone a light on. And young people then really sort of felt that. And I think, she blazed through the royal family and dragged it kicking and screaming towards the 21st century. And I think that's why, now, all this time later, with her boys carrying on that approach, that is why, that is the real thing. She made a difference to a lot of people's lives in a very different way to anything that had gone before in the royal family.
Kathleen Patterson asked an interesting question. She's just got in touch with us via the usual Facebook channels, and she asked, is the relationship strained with Camilla during this time because of the sadness caused by her involvement in their marriage? I think they're pretty close, aren't they?
I mean, look, William and Harry, when it comes to the Duchess of Cornwall, understand that life is complicated, and the one thing they do see is the fact that Camilla makes their father very happy. And Camilla had her 70th birthday recently. She had a big party at Highgrove, the Prince of Wales's country house. The boys were there. William, Harry, Kate, they were there. And I think that's a very strong sign of their relationship with her.
Nia, thanks very much for joining us and answering those questions and helping me out with my lack of knowledge in certain areas. Really appreciate it. We're just going to walk over this way and maybe have a look what's going on over here. Thank you, Nia. Thank you. As I say, you join us live on Facebook Live at CBC. If you have any questions, please do drop us a line and we'll try and get in touch with you. If I can't answer any questions, we'll try and get some answers for you, and we'll get them posted up at a later time for you. But let's just take a little walk over here. We are, of course, just on the outside, in front of Kensington Palace. I don't know if you can see, what I'm quite keen to show you actually is just how many members of the press there are here. I think we'll just have a quick look over here. I mean, you can barely see them because there are so many of them. It's like you can't see the wood for the trees. But yeah, from all over the country, massive interest in this anniversary this year, the 20th anniversary of the death of Princess Diana. Jason Chow has asked a question, an interesting question here. Does the royal family have their own transportation, like a train or plane? That is a very good question. I know they have a fleet of cars that they use to drive around London, but in terms of international travel or indeed national travel, I'm not 100% sure about that. We'll try and get you an answer on that later on. Alex Thomas asks, what is your take on the conspiracy around Princess Diana's sad demise? Well, there are always conspiracy theories. I'm not really sure how to answer that one, to be honest with you, Alex. I think I'll leave that one for now. I might get back to you. I'll have a think about that and get back to you later on that one. But of course, here we are again in front of Kensington Palace. The South Gate's the official area for people to come and lay tributes to the late Princess Diana. Well, you're live watching us live on Facebook Live, CBC. Please do get in touch if you have some questions. If you have any questions, we will try our best to answer them. I've left Nikkhah now, who's the fountain of all knowledge about things royal. But if you have any questions, we will try and get back to you as soon as possible. There's a bit of a press scrum going on here. I'm not sure what exactly is going on. Can't quite see. Sorry? Oh, they're cutting it. Can you tell us what's going on? We're live on Facebook Live.
I think they cutting the cake, a 20 years anniversary cake. Just the supporter of Diana.
Fantastic, thank you. There was a very large, very tasty looking cake up at the gates earlier on. It's part of the thing. I'm going to try and move in, get a closer look at it. Looks like there'd be a tough task for our super cameraman Pascal there. He's been working very hard today. Oh, there we go. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic piece of cake there to a large cake. And I don't know if you can see from here, but it does actually have a picture of Princess Diana on the top of it there. Christine Rector asks, are any tributes to Diana being done in Paris? Well, I believe that there may well be. Short distance away from where that terrible crash happened 20 years ago today. I cannot remember the name of the statue myself. I think it's the Liberty statue, but that became the unofficial point for people to lay tributes, very much like we have here in London. And I know that I've seen pictures recently that indeed, again, to mark the 20th anniversary, people have been laying flowers there again. Okay, I think that's about it from us here at Kensington Palace in London. Thank you very much for joining us on Facebook Live. Any of the questions that we couldn't answer, we will try and get them posted up to you later. But thanks again for joining us. Thank you. Sì, sì. Non voleva andare al centro.